Welcome back to another episode of Rewiring Health. So honored to be joined by Angela Fuller. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. So I mean, followed your journey on social media and, connected with you on social media. And what I love is just your amazing story of what brought you to where you are today and what you're doing today. And I would love if you could just share that, like what has inspired you to do what you do today and what's brought you along this journey.
Yeah. So let me tell you, I call it my comeback story. So I'll take you back a little bit. So I grew up in Colorado in Littleton and I was a gymnast as a little girl. And then I went on and I was a cheerleader in high school and then I cheered at Colorado State University. So I was basically an athlete my whole life. And then right out of college, I was in a really horrible car accident and I broke my back. So my active life was completely over. And I completely lost myself. And so it was really hard. I gained 50 pounds. Lucky for me, I met my awesome husband and we got married and we decided to have children. So we had my first little boy. And then my second little boy kind of changed everything. When I was pregnant with him at 20 weeks, he herniated 2 more discs in my back. So I already had that injury in the weight and I wasn't able to do much. But now I was put on disability. So I actually could hardly walk. I was in tons of pain. I was numb from the waist down. But we thought that once I had my little boy, I would be okay. Well, I had my little guy. He was a preemie, and then he was on oxygen, which was really difficult. And right after I had him, I went in for an MRI, and they were like, "I'm so sorry, but you're done." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "There's so much damage. Like, we recommend fusing your spine." And that would mean I was like officially done being active because in the back of my mind, I still was dreaming of flipping and flying someday. And I was told, you're done. But so that happened. And then my little guy, I was really suffering from a lot of depression and anxiety. And I had pretty severe postpartum. So I hit complete rock bottom at this point. Well, a friend recommended a Zumba. And so she brought me to class. I was pretty overweight, so I could hardly move, but I just kind of danced in the back row and my sparkle came back. And my husband was like, "You got to keep doing that," and it was having something outside of the home. So I kept doing that, but I was still in a lot of pain. Well, the moment that changed absolutely everything was my best friend, since we were 16 years old, was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. And it completely rocked my world. And it basically was the wake up call of, you know what, the doctor said this, but it's just his opinion. I'm going to fight for this. And so I hired a nutritionist and I started doing high intensity interval training and PT. And I was like, I want my life back. So I lost the 50 pounds. I got in the best shape of my life. I was also baptized and chose faith over fear and decided I'm taking my life back. So I did. And the pain was completely gone, which was pretty crazy. It was like truly a miracle. So then I started to think I'm going to chase all my dreams. So I started teaching group fitness to help other moms. And then I decided I'd always watched American Ninja Warrior and I was like, I'm going to chase that dream. I saw a mom hit a buzzer. And then, so I signed up for ninja classes. Well, what I realized is really hard to get on that show. And so after a few years of trying, I was like, what's another dream I could do that I have control over? So I went back to gymnastics. And so I signed up for adult gymnastics and I started competing. And this was my second year competing as an adult gymnast. And I even went to nationals.
Oh,
Um, and then after 4 years of trying, American Ninja Warrior finally called me this year and my ultimate dream came true and I got to compete on the show. So I have made a full comeback. So from being an athlete to being completely inactive for 14 years, it wasn't just a few years, those 14 years, to now flipping and flying in the air. And I have zero back pain. So it's been crazy. So I'm pretty excited.
that is it's amazing. Just like, and what an inspiration to so many people who, if you're listening to this and you're where Angela was years ago, like take that to heart because and I love what you said. It was just a doctor's opinion, of what you were
Yeah.
capable of. And that's it. And, sometimes we get stuck in like the authority figure and we kind of give everybody our power over, because we think that they know better than we do. But I love that you took action and you took it into your own hand and in your heart and allowed faith to win out in that you were going to accomplish bigger things. And absolutely
Yeah.
tremendous. It's just
Thank
such a
you.
tremendous story and on so many levels, and just the inspiration that you had, with your friend, and just absolutely amazing to take that all in and just triumph in so many levels in your life and then help other moms in the process. Absolutely incredible. So from with the pain and the back pain, a big part of that is a lot of times we live in fear. How much do you think that was that you had the fear response and now you decide to live in faith and then that changed? Do you believe that that made a big difference?
Absolutely. And I actually was crippled by fear a lot my whole life. Even when I was a gymnast as a little girl, I actually ended gymnastics with an injury.
Mm,
And so I've always let fear control me.
mhm.
And I feel like, yeah, absolutely, when I was baptized, but also my friend, when she, like, it was one of those things where it's like, I don't want to have regret someday. And so I just kind of took the attitude of, I'm going to do it scared. I'm going to choose faith and God's going to take care of me. And then that feeling of overcoming that fear and conquering the obstacle or getting that skill back that I did when I was a little girl completely outweighed all of the fear. It just kind of took it away. So there's always going to be fear. I don't want to say it's
Yeah.
always there, right? And
Mhm.
this is my favorite saying, it's fear, forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. And
Mm,
I will always choose to rise. And it is hard. I have faith over fear in every room of my house
I
just to
love
remind me.
that.
And
Mhm.
then on the show, all of my sideline people I have a custom shirt with, it says faith over fear with a cross and a girl in a handstand.
Oh, that's
And I have women wearing it all over the world, and it's been pretty awesome. And so it's just that reminder that you have that moment where you can make it take you down, or you can rise and you can face it and you can conquer it.
Oh, I love that. And just the movement that you've created, and that was so empowering for you, and now other women are taking that and empowering themselves. And I love that you showcase that it's a choice. We always have a choice in how we move forward, and there's always an unknown in our future. We don't know what it is. We can
Yeah,
choose to move in that fear of the unknown, or we can just have faith that it's going to work out as it is meant to be. And so I love that that has become your motto, because it's everything in life. Like, we always have that choice to on how we move forward and how we perceive things in our life. I-
absolutely. And I would say too, like with fear, it
Mhm.
is really hard because that's the number one question I get. Because I'm 43 years old, by the way.
Yeah.
And I'm a mom. I don't know if I mentioned this. I have two little boys, they're 12 and 14. And so everyone's like, aren't you scared of getting hurt? You're old. And I have been injured. I do want to tell you, I had a pretty bad ankle injury. I've had a few things. Um, but man, you just can't let it take you down. And I've always taken the attitude that it's just a diagnosis. I'll get through it. And to me, it's still worth it. So I'd rather go for it and get injured or fail than not go for it at all and have regrets. So
Yeah.
that's what I always decide. But
Yeah, I love that. And I love too that you share your age, because sometimes we use that as like, oh, I'm 43, it's too late to do this. But no, this is like, at any point you can restart your life. You can take control of it and you can move into the direction that you desire and get your sparkles, just like you said. So
yeah.
I absolutely love that. When you have these like setbacks, and you talk about the ankle injury, and setbacks are kind of just part of our life. How do you cultivate that power within yourself to move past those setbacks? Like, what does that look like when that happens?
So, a few big things. I always say, let yourself sit in that sadness for one day, really, because you need to feel the emotions of like, oh my gosh, I am hurt and this is not good and I'm going to have recovery. So, let yourself feel it, but then also surround yourself with people that are going to help support you. I have amazing friends that have helped me a ton. So you need a good support system. And obviously, internally, yes, I was like, I'm going to get up. I'm going to fight for this. When I had the ankle injury, I was teaching fitness the next day in a chair. And I taught in a boot and a chair for 2 months. And then
Wow.
I had my other students help me teach class. And I was like, no, I'm not going to, because everything else still worked. It was just my ankle. So I think a
Yeah.
lot of us too get injured and we're like, oh, I'm out. And I'm like, no, you're not out. Your ankle doesn't work. Everything else works.
Mhm.
And so it's that mental toughness of rising above it. Like you're always going to find an excuse if you're looking for one. So you always have to decide, like, are you going to choose the excuse or are you going to choose to fight? And so I always choose to fight. And I always tell my students too, you're never going to regret a workout. You're going to regret not going to a workout. And so I just encourage them to show up regardless of how they feel, just show up.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, but I would say a lot of mental toughness. I would say the other thing I tell people is having your best friend with terminal cancer changes your life forever. So
Mhm.
there are nights, because I train late night gymnastics and ninjas 8 to 10 p.m. So I'm late nights. And on my drive, there's so many times like I'm tired, but I think about like it's such a blessing I woke up today. It's such a blessing that I get to work out. I get to move my body. And we don't know what tomorrow will hold. And so
Yeah.
I always tell people like just go do it. You're not going to remember your best night of watching TV. You're
Yeah.
not, but you're
Mhm.
going to remember going to the gym doing backflips. So
Absolutely. And
yeah,
I love what you just brought up there. It's like we can focus on what's lacking in our life or focus on what we have in our life. And that's a huge thing. And
yes,
also focus on what we have to be grateful for rather than focusing on things that maybe aren't going as well. So it's just that's a huge thing as far as like where our focus is, and where our focus is where our energy is. And so I just love that you brought that
yeah.
up there. With the mental toughness, do you think that was something you've had your whole life, or is that something you've had to work at and cultivate as you've gone through your life?
I've absolutely worked on it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
um, Actually, I was not tough when I was little. No, I let fear cripple me. I always say, I wish I was a gym. I wish I was me at
Mhm.
14. I'm
Mhm.
so much tougher now, but I think it's because I've gone through so much that it's made me really tough and strong. So no, I absolutely was not this way as a child. I gave up really easily. Like
Mhm.
when I say that, face everything and rise or forget everything and run, I ran. So I was a runner. I got scared. So I feel like this is my part. Like, and also now having children, I don't want my kids to be like I was. I
Mhm.
want them to face things and rise. I don't want them to run away from their problems. So I
Yeah.
think being a mom has absolutely changed me because I have two little boys that I can tell them you need to do this and whatever, but they're watching what their mom does, and even how I handled what happened on American Ninja Warrior or any of that stuff. Like my two little boys watching me. So that's changed me a lot too.
Yeah, and I want to dive into that more because there's so many moms, like I'm a mom, like we've all experienced those moments where we feel like the guilt of taking care of ourselves or doing something that lights us up instead of like prioritizing our kids 100% of the time. And can you talk about the how you balance that where you get the self-care for yourself and also exhibit to your children that this is also self-care for them, that this is how
Absolutely.
you move forward in
So
their
my favorite analogy when I talk to a lot of moms groups is when you go on an airplane. They say put the oxygen mask on you and then on your child. But
life.
how many of us put it on our child, our neighbor, our friend, our husband?
So
And they're
true.
like, oh, wait, I need oxygen.
Yeah.
So I always tell you are such a better mom when you take care of yourself, especially exercise, right? Getting the endorphins out and they calm you down and help your better mood when you eat healthy. You just feel better if you're a better mom. And the other thing I tell moms is when you take care of yourself, you're now showing your children and giving them the example when they're older that it's important for self care for them.
Yeah.
So then when they're an adult and they need to, get away and take care of themselves, they're gonna be like, my mom used to do that. And that was really important.
Yeah.
I also love as a mom, we cheer on our kids all the time, right? All the sporting events we're there, which we rightfully should be there. But there is something super cool having your kid cheer you on. So like having my little boys have signs up on American Ninja Warrior cheering me on, I can't even explain to that. It's so much pride for their mama. And I just like, even if it's a marathon or I don't know anything, just reversing those roles and showing your kids that you're important. But there is a lot of mom guilt.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I
Mhm.
don't know one mom that doesn't have mom guilt. I've had, gymnastics meets where I'm like running. I missed my son's second run on his ski race. I saw his first, but not his second. And I had to run off to my meet and I had a ton of guilt. But then, they don't feel that way. I've talked to them about it and they're so proud of me. Um, and just the little lessons you're teaching them, like my little boy, he just started school and they had to put their picture on the wall with a saying and what they're going to like focus on this year, like a quote. And he put faith over fear. And
Oh.
I was like bawling because I was like,
Oh.
oh my gosh. And he's like, yeah, mom, that's what it's all about. And so, like I said before, you can tell your children, take care of yourself, all this stuff, but they're going to do what they see, not what you tell them. So if
100%.
you're never going to the gym and you're eating terribly, and then you're telling your child you need to eat better, it's not gonna, I mean, it's hard.
Yeah. And then it can become confusing for the child. Like you're saying one thing, but you're doing another. And it's like, especially too, you make such a good point. It's like, we tell our kids, go after your dreams. You can be anything you want. You can do
Yes.
anything. And then yet a lot of moms are like, well, I'll take care of myself when this is, X, Y, and Z. Like, so it's so true. It's like, unless you're going after your dreams, you can't expect your kid to have that mentality when they grew up because they never saw it exhibited. So yeah, it's so
Yeah.
important. Like if you expect that your child and you want them to go after what they want in life, you have to do it yourself. And I love that point you just brought
Yeah.
up. So huge
Well,
there.
when did we stop dreaming? Like when you're little, you dream all the time. I'm gonna be a firefighter. I'm gonna be this. I'm gonna be that.
Yeah.
And then it's like especially moms,
Mhm.
you have your child, and now you've decided I'll just live through my child, and they can. And so
Yeah.
I ask moms all the time, yeah, what are your dreams? And they look at me like I'm an alien, like, what? And then they get uncomfortable and they start talking about their kids, and it's like, no, you get to dream still,
Yeah.
and you only have your kids to 18 years, which
Yeah.
and then what are you left with if you did nothing for yourself for 18 years? And I don't know. There's nothing better. This is my other favorite quote. It says, do something that makes your kids want to brag about you, right?
Yeah.
So, like, they deserve a mom to brag about. And I
Mhm.
think that's pretty cool. Like, when you overhear your kids talking about you, what are they saying about you? Like, it's pretty cool to hear them like, my mom can do backflips, and my mom,
Yeah. It's
like,
so cool. Yeah.
they're so proud of you.
Mhm.
Being a mom is awesome. Yes, cooking and cleaning and doing all the things for them and driving them around. But there's something extra cool when you're doing a certain hobby, or like, my mom wrote a book, or my
Yeah.
mom's a painter. It's
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you can like support each other. Like like when especially when you're family, you want that like back and forth support. So it's like you have that. And I
Yes.
love what you bring up about like when did we forget to dream? Like, we think that it's almost like you go into adulthood and we have to relinquish all these exciting things about ourselves. And another thing is play. We forget how to play. Like we forget
Yes.
curiosity. We forget all these things that light us up. And then we wonder why we're feeling the way we are. It's because you're on autopilot. You're just going through the motions and doing what society tells you is acceptable and what you should be doing. And it's like we all have these things inside of us that are just want to be heard and want to be explored. And so you're doing that. And I think that's just absolutely amazing that like you're leading
Yeah.
by example
Thank
for
you.
yourself, for your children, and for other moms to see that like you can be a good mom, you can be a good person for yourself, and you can pursue everything that you want in your life. And I just think that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. But
Yeah.
yeah, I would say it was interesting too, even on the show, because they allow 15-year-olds now.
Yeah.
So so my son's 14, and I'm like, well, this is different. But I had a lot of moms on set with their 15-year-olds, and they're like, oh, which one's your child? I'm like, oh no, I'm competing. And they
Yeah.
almost got weird about it. And then a few of them like, oh, I'm too old to do that. And I'm like, well, how old are you? And they're the same age as me. And
Yeah.
that was kind of eye-opening too. It was like, oh my goodness, like, that I think that's the biggest thing I want to show women, is to dream big, and that anything, absolutely. But if I'm going to be totally honest right now.
Mhm.
When I first went to the ninja gym, I went to take my son, and I
Mhm.
was like, oh, I'll just watch him and this is fun. And then the coach was like, oh, do you know adults can play? And it
Mhm.
honestly was kind of a foreign concept to me too. I was like, oh, I can play too.
Yeah.
And so then I started playing, and then I got hooked.
Oh my
And
gosh.
he doesn't even really do it anymore.
Yeah.
So I will admit, there was a part of me that was like, oh, I'll live out my dream through my
Mhm.
son. He'll be an American Ninja Warrior someday.
Yeah.
So give yourself grace. I do think that it is kind of a foreign concept sometimes, of especially people be like, oh, you used to be a gymnast. And I'm like, no, I am a gymnast. Like,
Mhm.
huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but by doing that, we are like paving the path to show that you really, like, I know what I'm doing is a little extreme, but I love that it's extreme, because it just goes to show you that you really can do anything you set
Yeah.
your mind to.
That's it. And I love that because like it is, I mean, I've watched American Ninja Warrior for years. I love the show. And I'm just like fascinated by, I'm like, wow, that's like incredible just watching these athletes. And then like they show the training and it's like, there is like mad respect for anyone who goes on there because it is just, you can see the level of training that you need to be on there. And like, that's what's amazing is that if you can get on there, it's like, man, that's like, you could do anything, you
Yeah.
know, like that's such a
Yeah.
high level athlete. Like it's incredible. Do you mind sharing your experience, like once you got on the show and how it, all came to fruition and how it went on the show?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to talk about it
Yeah.
because I couldn't for like 3 months. I had to keep it a secret. I mean, everybody knew but it was a weird, surreal moment. So if you don't know, 70,000 people apply to the show. I did not know that. I didn't know my
That's a
odds were that low.
I had no idea
And
that that many.
yeah, I was like, that's
Wow.
crazy. Um,
Yeah.
so anyways, they only chose a couple hundred this year. So I honestly so phone calls go out
Mhm.
and you see people are getting calls and because they like tag it. So I watched, and this is my 4th year applying,
Yeah.
and it's been a month now. Everybody's getting calls, and I'm like, well, I'm clearly not getting on again.
Oh my
And I
God.
kind of decided that's okay. And I honestly, so I found out it was being filmed in LA. And so I
Mhm.
was like, all right, if there's a year, God, please make it be this year. My best friend with stage 4 cancer lives in LA.
Oh
So
my
I was
God.
like, oh my gosh, she can be on my sideline.
Oh, of course.
So I will never
Yeah.
forget the night before. I was like, if there's a year. So that next day, my husband was like, when are you coming home from class? And I thought that was a little weird, but it's Valentine's Day.
Mhm.
And then I walked in, he was acting super weird.
Yeah.
And then he's like, he had me come at the front room and he's like, where's your phone? I'm like, I don't know where my phone is. I grabbed my phone. I truly had no idea. And then I
Yeah.
looked down and it was a number from New Jersey. And I was like, it's supposed to be California. Darn it.
Yeah.
Like I was had a moment where I was like, maybe it's American Ninja Warrior.
Yeah.
And then I looked down and then he's like, it's Trevor from American Ninja Warrior. I cannot even tell you the emotions because I
Oh
was
my
like, all I
gosh.
kept thinking is my best friend gets to be there. Like
Oh
that's
my
all.
God. I have like goosebumps as you're telling me
uh,
that. Oh my
because I was
God.
like, my best friend gets to be there. I couldn't
Wow.
believe it because she's my inspiration. She's the
Yeah.
reason I am here today.
Wow.
So anyway, so that was pretty magical. And then it's a lot. It's way more than you think it is. There's tons of paperwork, and then you're COVID tested and you got to get ready. And they give you I only had a month notice. So kind
Wow.
of to get things rolling and get my head you're doing this, like the
Yeah.
dream you waited 4 years for.
Wow.
So then you get there and they put you up in a hotel. And there's just a lot that goes with it. So you do B-roll, which is interviews, you do photos, you do videos, all the behind the scenes stuff, right? With the green screen and all that stuff, which is pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
I was laughing because I felt like all these people have prepared routines and poses, and I'm just like, I'm here. I had so much fun, and the
Yeah.
interview was amazing. I got to share my story, and then all the pressure hit because everybody's messaging me good luck, I'm so excited, and I'm like, oh no, this is a big deal. So the morning of, if I'm honest with you, I really struggled. The perfectionist child came back to me that all of a sudden I was thinking about disappointing others more than my performance. But I did some meditation and I got in the right place and I prayed and I was like, God, it's your story. So you get what's going to happen, you know? So then we got on set and I realized it's not the first obstacle that I've trained 150 times.
Yeah.
So they decided to switch the whole course.
Oh my gosh.
And the first obstacle I've never seen in a ninja gym. I'm like, what is this thing? You jump on a pole and it drops and you try to get to the other side. And so it was pretty, and you touch nothing. That's the other thing that people have to understand. You touch absolutely nothing. You just look, the testers go through it, and you just hope when you go, you know how to
Wow.
do it.
Wow.
So yeah, so I was the first night of filming. It was freezing cold. You think you're kept in nice warming tents. You're not. You're kept in a tent outside, no heater. There's a little heater outside, but it's frigid. So it's 38 degrees in the middle of the night.
Oh my
So
gosh.
you're sitting there and you're watching everybody, and I'm a goofball, so I'm just dancing around and making it fun. But then you start seeing people just fall a lot. People are getting hurt, and you're like, oh no, they don't show this on TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was just worried more that I was going to get hurt. especially, so that first obstacle, people were like hitting their face and sliding down it and all that stuff. And they didn't realize the first night of filming that once the pole got wet, it couldn't be dried. So the show was delayed a couple hours. So by the time I ran, it was 2:30 in the morning. I
Oh
just
my
watched people
God.
falling, falling, falling. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is going to go so well. So me hitting a buzzer, like the odds were pretty low. And, but I was okay with it. Like I won being there. So I remember walking up to the stage and I was like, all right, God, like shake the wheel, but I'm going to have fun on this stage.
Mhm.
So, I got on the stage, I danced because, it all started in a Zumba class. My students were on my sideline, my best friend, my
Oh,
family was there in person with my best friend.
oh.
Because there's a virtual sideline and there's an in-person.
Mhm.
So yep, 2:30 in the morning. So I remember I danced, I'm ready. I never will forget when I walked out of there, all I could think was 12 years ago, you were on disability and you were literally walking on the stage as an American enjoyer right now. Like it was surreal. And I
Yeah.
remember like take it in. I wasn't nervous at all. That was weird too. I was not nervous. And I looked at everybody like I just was like, you did it. You made it, And
Oh,
so I
yeah.
remember looking at the trampoline and I was like, it was so wet. And I was like, please don't get hurt. And then I thought, maybe I should just do a front flip into the water because the odds of me getting up this pole are like slim to none. But I decided I was like, I'm gonna go for it. So I did, and so I jumped and I grabbed the pole and it was sopping wet and it was frozen. And I like wrapped my arms and I'm like, I'm staying on this pole. So I flipped around and I stayed on the pole. So I'm like, I got this. Now I'll just climb up. Well, the pole like bowed and it had dropped me and my booty hit the water. So here's out.
Yeah.
Um, so it was weird though, because I didn't care. I was
Mhm.
like, I didn't get hurt. I'm an
Mhm.
American Ninja Warrior. So I
Yeah.
remember I got out of the water and they handed me my towel and I just was like, they're like, what happened? Like they want drama. And I was
Yeah.
like, my dream just came true. And they're like,
Oh.
okay. Um, so I got back into the tent and everybody was like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, what are you sorry for? And they're like, I'm sorry that it was wet and you couldn't go further. Cause like half of us had that happen to them that night. So it was a hard time in the tent. Lots of tears, it was just really
Oh,
a hard
it's
night.
hard. Yeah.
But I got to be the light in that tent because I was making them laugh. I'm like, guys, it is what it is, right? And
Yeah.
it was so cool because I was telling one of them, I just said, we all came out here thinking we were going to hit a buzzer.
Mhm.
And we don't get to control the outcome, but we do get to control our attitude. And
Mhm.
so that's where I was just like, guys, 70,000 people would give anything for their booty to hit that water and give in
Yeah.
the towel.
So true. Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't perfect. It was not, but I didn't care. And this was the hard part. I remember getting back to my room and thinking, I'm so proud of myself.
Mhm.
But what is the world gonna think?
Mhm.
And you get all the messages of I can't wait to see the show when you hit the buzzer, and you're like, you are not gonna see me hit a buzzer.
Yeah. Oh.
Um, so it was interesting, and I did a lot of interviews with the news and all that, and there was like that. It was a weird pull because it was like, well, I don't know. And then they only air a third of the competitors, and so I didn't think I'd be aired. I remember thanking my story producer, like, just thank you for having me. Like my dream came true. And then
Yeah.
he's like, no, we're gonna air you. And I'm like, are you serious?
Wow. That's so cool.
So
Yeah.
I was like so excited because yeah, this was why I was most excited. So
Mhm.
for Taylor Green, 15 years old, hitting a buzzer, she won. But I
Mhm.
won too. I
Mhm.
won getting there. I've been through so much. And so I had the opportunity, not that this is not what I thought why I was going on the show, but I realized I get to show the world that winning is different for every single person on this planet. And that
Mhm.
we all should be celebrated. Not
Mhm.
just the person that hits the buzzer, not just the person on the podium, everyone. And so then the next day, I'll never forget, it aired and everyone was so happy for me. And I was like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, yay. And
Yeah.
then the news called and they wanted to interview me again. And I was like, well, you saw the show. Like, I didn't crash the course. And they're like, oh no, like, this is amazing still. And I was like, okay. So it's been
So
the
cool.
most surreal few months and not what I pictured, not what I thought why I was on that show, but it's perfect.
Mhm. I love that.
Perfectly imperfect.
Oh, that's it. That is, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I love that. And I just love how you say winning is different for everyone, because it's so true. And yet we tend to hold ourselves to the standard, but like when you experience it and then you literally lived your dream, it just opens yourself up to just being so overly grateful for every little thing
Yes.
that happened. I love that. And it's like to move through life, and when with that attitude, it's just beautiful. Like just to see beauty in every moment, even if it didn't go as you anticipated or planned, but to see the beauty in it and the strength that it brought you, just amazing. And one thing that you said, and I just love it, that how you were saying everybody was crying in the tent and you were like the light in the tent. I love it too,
Yeah.
because oftentimes like we have the choice to be a thermostat or a thermometer. And like a thermometer, you just
Yes.
read the room and you just go with it. But if you're a thermostat, you change the energy in the room. You change how it feels in the room. And that's what you were. You were a thermostat for everyone. You change the energy, and just, I'm sure, inspired other people to realize like, wow, we really have a lot to be grateful for. The fact that,
Yeah.
you said 70,000 people wanted to be in that room, and all these people were. So just incredible. And I love that. Perfectly imperfect. That's it.
Yeah. So
Absolutely
yeah,
beautiful.
I think that that's the hardest thing is a lot of people watch that show and judge from the couch, like, oh my gosh. And I'm
Yeah.
like, if you experience it, do you know the amount of bravery it takes to just
Yeah.
walk on that stage and then take on
Yeah.
that course? And um, yeah, so I just like it was one of those things where yeah, it's so interesting. And I love that I went through at this point in my life. 14-year-old Angela may have handled that differently. Um, but 43-year-old Angela, I mean, gosh, I've just been through so much. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so very different. And it is hard. Like there are a lot of people on that show, like not many of them are happy, right? There are people that get to the fifth obstacle and because they don't hit the buzzer, they're crying. And it's hard. It is definitely, yeah, I've never experienced something like that. Like because we're all in different journeys, right? And so it's a different, so for them to be like, wait, this girl didn't even like,
Mhm.
she didn't even get to do the course. Like she did one obstacle and she's like jumping around like she won the show. And I'm like, well, I did. I won getting
Yeah.
here. And so it did. I had a number of ninjas write me and they have been on the show and they didn't do very well and they never posted about it. They were kind of like they weren't even on the show.
Oh my
And they
gosh.
were like, nope, I'm going to post my run where I didn't get past the first obstacle. And I was like, absolutely. Because
Yeah.
what are you saying to everybody out there if
Mhm.
you aren't just proud of yourself? And let's be real. Like, I'm so over like social media just showing all of, our highlight reel. Why can't we
Oh
be
my
more
gosh.
real with
So
each other?
true.
You know?
So true. Oh, that is like the golden nugget right there. And just being vulnerable, being candid, but also like what I love is that you gave it meaning. What you did, you gave it meaning, and the meaning was so deeply seated and meaningful to you that it
Yeah.
no one could take that away from you. And it wasn't like the
No.
outcome, it was the meaning that you applied to it. And that's literally it. And it's like you say, people got to fit that obstacle, but the meaning they gave to themselves was that it was a failure, maybe, or why that
Yes.
they didn't want to do it. Yeah,
Gratitude changes everything. If
totally.
there is
Yeah.
one thing that has completely changed my life is that I wake
Mhm.
up every morning with gratitude and every situation. I'll never forget to my little boy, 12 years old, when I got out of the water and I went to go see him, he said, "It's the thought that counts, mom." And I'm like,
Oh,
"You're totally right." Like
oh
if we
my
look
gosh.
through life more, like how many times do we go into a situation and it doesn't turn out how we pictured? But why does that not it still can be great. It still can be
Yeah.
beautiful. Seeing the glass half full. And so there are just so many things that yeah, it's awesome. And the other thing that my friends always laugh about, so being a gymnast now at
Mhm.
43, when I go to meets, I don't even look at the scores because
Yeah.
sometimes it ruins the pride you feel for
Mhm.
yourself. You're like, oh, I felt so good. And then you see the score and you're like, what? So I've just taken this attitude about life that I focus more on what I'm proud of myself and how
Mhm.
do I feel about something, not what the outside world perceives or the outside world tells me how I should feel about my performance or what I've done. And that's been game changer. And then when I start feeling that outside world creep in, I'm like, no, I'm focusing on gratitude.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. Like I literally, if you're listening to this, rewind and listen to that again. Because that's it. Like you're fulfilled within your heart. And it's like it doesn't matter what happens in the outside world when you feel that feeling. it's
Yeah.
just beautiful. And I love how you also said that the outside world does creep in, because that is reality. Like it's easy to kind of get back into like, oh, what did they think? Oh, that should have been like that. But then when you have that anchor of gratitude, it just allows you to almost release that and come back to yourself. And I love that. Such a
Yeah.
beautiful
Well, and
statement.
that even goes with social media when you post something.
Mhm.
Have you
Mhm.
ever made a reel and you're like, this reel is so good?
Yep.
And you put it out into the world and like 4 people like it, maybe like, you know what I mean?
Maybe.
So like, I don't even look at it. Like I
Yeah.
truly like make myself, this is what I want to put into the world.
Yeah.
And I don't care. And this is what I always tell people to focus on the
Mhm.
one person you're going to impact. Cause
Totally.
that's all that really matters, right? If
Mhm.
your reel impacts one human to change their life, you
Mhm.
have no idea. And so I was telling you this earlier, but I think the coolest thing, two cool things happened. So a year ago, I was the closing speaker at Zumba convention, which was awesome. I've never done something in front of that many people. And I had 30 minutes to prepare. And I went out and I remember I was like, am I going to share the dream that I want to be an American enjoyer? I've been rejected 3 years in a row. And I'm like, nope, I'm totally going to share it. So I did.
Yeah.
And then it was like unbelievable. All these people started following my journey. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually
Wow.
did it.
Oh my
And
God.
that was super cool. But I shared my postpartum and my comeback in front of all these people. And this year at convention, to have the moms come up to me in tears, because I remember on stage I said, if this helps one person, right? And this year, I've had so many messages, and then meeting them in person, and moms chasing their huge dreams. You know, I have somebody, she's doing roller derby, always wanted to do that, going on an Ironman, writing a book, being a painter, like all these huge dreams. And it's like I gave them permission to do that. And it was like that was the coolest thing, because as I was telling you earlier,
Mhm.
it's very cool to chase your own dream and make that come true. But
Mhm.
what is second level is when
Yeah.
you inspire somebody else to chase their dream. Like
100.
there's no better feeling than inspiring others. And that's why I put myself out there and vulnerable, because vulnerability changes lives.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you are so right. And it's like those moments, like when you can look outside yourself and like, who do I need to serve today? Who needs to hear this message? Like, who needs the best version of me? Like when you ask yourself those questions and you get yourself out of your own ego, it's like you realize that
Yeah.
your soul is like leading the journey, and you are here to help like the past version of yourself or what you needed to hear maybe years ago. And it's like, what a gift to someone that you've overcome so many obstacles so that you can be this beacon of hope for other people who are also going through struggles in their life. And absolutely love that.
Yeah. Thank
Incredible.
you. Well, and I just feel so blessed that I get to share my story. And, you know, I just, I think the hardest thing, if I'm telling you one thing that made me sad, was on the show. Obviously, I knew that I wouldn't be able to share my story on national TV, the full thing, because I didn't hit a buzzer.
Yeah.
But there were so many other avenues and so many doors that opened, and that has been so incredible, because this is really my dream. Actually, is doing public speaking and doing podcasts and just inspiring people, because like I said, it fills my cup more than anything. I just, yeah, flipping and flying for myself is pretty cool, but man, when people see that and then they go do it, oh my goodness. It's so
Amazing.
cool.
Yeah, it just fills your heart even more. And it's like, I guarantee someone's going to listen to this and there's going to be something that sticks out to them that the next time they're going through something, it's going to come back into their present mind and be like, oh yeah, like let me approach it from that way. And now they're going to have an easier way to get easier, like their hearts can be more at peace because they have that in it. Or maybe they focus
Yeah.
on gratitude. Like there's going to be someone who's going to listen to this who's going to be changed by it. And that it's absolutely incredible.
I would say the big thing I do want to tell you too is
Yeah.
baby steps, you guys. If you
Mhm.
are listening to this and you're like, I want to do that. I was I don't know, a soccer player when I was little, and I miss that and I want to go back. You 100% can go back, but give yourself grace.
Mhm.
And take baby steps. I also love vision boards. So I
Mhm.
created a vision board for my transformation, and I wrote down all the things that, I saw myself doing in a year, and I looked at it every single day, because, they say if you believe it, you can achieve it. And just having that visual representation, that's why I have faith over fear in every room of my house, because sometimes I need that reminder.
Mhm.
But you really are capable of so much more than you ever could imagine. Like,
Mhm.
honestly, like, and it's mental, it's mindset. Your body goes where your mind goes. So if you
Mhm.
feed it positivity and gratitude, and I'm going to do this, then you're
Yeah.
going to do this. But if you feed it negativity and doubt and all that, but
Mhm.
then for the days where you have the hard days, that's why you have to find people that are going to build you up in the hard days. So find that group. I love group fitness. I teach group fitness every day of the week. I always tell people, find that crew that's going to encourage you to chase your dreams. And they are too, right? So if you surround yourself with people that aren't really doing much,
Mhm.
you're not going to do much, right? It's not going to encourage you. So those are kind of my recommendations. And don't let the doubters stop you.
Mhm.
Use it as fuel. So a year ago, I had somebody say to me, I can't believe you thought they'd actually call you when I got rejected my third year.
Gosh.
And I remember thinking, oh, and it was a family member. And I
Mm.
remembered like, oh my gosh. And I was so sad for one day. And then I'm like,
Mhm.
oh no, they're going to call me. Like, it's
Yeah.
like,
I
if it
love
takes 10 years, I'm
I
going to
love
do this.
that. Yes.
So use it as fuel. Don't use it
100%.
as like frustrate. Yeah. So I would
Mhm.
say that too, because you'll have moms being like, oh, don't you feel bad being away from your kids? And so you just know
Yeah.
that you're going to have that. Unhappy people aren't happy for happy people.
Yeah, you're
So
so right.
yeah,
Yeah. And it's a reflection on their limiting beliefs, not what you are capable of doing. And that's why I've also found in my life, any of the naysayers, it's a reflection on what they think isn't capable, they're not capable of. And it's like it almost becomes threatening when somebody tries to push past their own boundaries, because it almost makes them have to reflect on their boundaries. And that's uncomfortable. So it almost becomes easier to tell somebody they can't do it than look inward and be like, okay, why am I saying this to that person? So
absolutely.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
that's what I always say. Like, it's going to be a journey, but
Mhm.
embrace the journey too. Don't just look at the destination either, because you'll go crazy. Embrace the journey, enjoy the journey, like make it. Yeah. Because even when you hit the destination, so this is the number one question I get: what next, Angela? And I'm like,
Yeah.
why is there next?
Yeah. Yes.
I made
Oh
these
my
huge
gosh.
dreams come, like, I'm just happy. Can I just
Yeah.
live here and be happy? And
Yes.
so that's the other thing. And I love the journey so much that
Mhm.
I don't even need a next gen, destination. I don't know. Yeah, number one question, will I do the show again? They filmed shows, 2 seasons back to back, and emotionally there was no way I could go back 4 days
Yeah.
later. I was
Yeah.
also covered in bruises from fighting that pole.
Oh my God.
Um,
Wow.
is bad. But also so I don't know where I'll be in a year. I'll never say never. But I
Mhm.
also accomplished my dream and I have nothing to prove. I do want to point that out too, is you have to remember that, like, I didn't need to hit a buzzer on the show. I know I'm capable of doing those obstacles. And um that's another really cool feeling as an adult. Like, even when I'm on social media or anything, I have nothing to prove. Like,
Mhm.
I don't, I know I can do it. And that's all that matters,
Yeah,
right? That self pride comes back. And
totally.
that's a really cool feeling of like, I don't need to go back. And I would love to go back and actually get a play on the course.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but who knows if it's going to be wet and frozen again. So,
Mhm.
yeah. So that's the
Yeah.
other thing. There's a lot when you chase dreams, just know you will be up against a lot. But that's why, like, have that vision in mind of where you want to go and what you want to do,
Mhm.
and never let go of that.
Yeah. That's huge. And also one thing that you were talking about earlier, you had such a strong why behind it too, that also keeps you going forward. Like when things don't go well or whatever, like when you have a strong why behind anything you desire in life, like it will keep you moving forward because your heart's attached to it. So that's something
Yeah.
also I heard in your story. It's like you had a strong why on top of having the vision of and the clarity of where you wanted your life to go. And that's amazing. It's a game changer once
Yeah.
you have that.
Oh, this was the other thing I did. Oh my gosh, I love this. So 4 years ago, when I decided I wanted to be an American Ninja, I bought a
Mhm.
tank top, American
Mhm.
Ninja tank top, and I was like, I'm gonna earn this. I won't wear it till I am one.
Oh,
And
cool.
that visual, remember how I said that visual, have a visual marker? So I had it on my shelf, and every single day I got ready, I saw it sitting there. And I was
Mm.
like, someday I'm wearing that. And so this is kind of fun. Now, if you look back at my pictures, the day I got the call, I took it off the shelf. It had dust all over it.
Oh my
I was
gosh,
like shaking it off because four
that's so
years of dust.
funny.
And I put it on. And so that picture when I got the call that night is me in that tank top that
So
was
cool, I'll
like
have to go
on the
back and
shelf.
look.
Yeah,
Um,
I was staring at it for 4 years. I even had a friend go, "I don't even think they make that tank top anymore." I'm like, "I know, because it's 4 years old."
so funny. Oh my gosh, I love that. That's
Yeah,
amazing. And that's just like that conviction, like you knew you were going to get there. Like nothing's going to stop you.
yeah.
Love that.
But there was a lot of doubt and tears. Like, I
Yeah.
wanna point that out too. I cried
Yeah.
a lot, more
Yeah.
than I would like to admit. I mean, every year I didn't get the call. Man, oh man. It was hard, but I also would talk it through with my kids. I didn't wanna hide that from them either. I'm like, "You know what stinks to not have your dream come true or for you to fail or feel like that, but
Mhm.
that's okay, and failure isn't failure, it's just a
Mhm.
lesson, and you just look at the positives, and it made me so much stronger. And I also look back and so much has happened. If I got the call that first year, now knowing what I know, I emotionally would not have been ready for that experience. So it's
Yeah.
like God prepared me for 4 years. So when I got there this year, I could be the light in the tent and I could support and help and love others because
Mhm.
I'm so mentally strong and just a great place in my life. So it's pretty cool too. You always are like, why isn't the door opening that I want to open? But sometimes it's not your door or it's not ready. Like, right? That's not your
Yeah.
time. So you
Mhm.
have to remember that too. And so
Mhm.
don't let it destroy you. Just and that's why I kind of shifted a little bit and went, also focus on other things. So don't put everything in one thing, right? Especially if it's something you're being casted for, you
Mhm.
have zero control, right? So do stuff that you have control over and you can, because that is very difficult if you have something that's in the hands of casting producers,
Right.
you know?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. And yeah, thank you again for showcasing the failures because that's one big thing that, especially I know you said you're like the perfectionist tendencies early on, like failures was, usually that thing that you avoid at all costs. But when you talk about it, and this is so true, it's like failure is part of that journey. It's part of the learning. It's part of strengthening you so that you are prepared for when it happens. So
yeah.
that's just such an important token of information because failure is part of that. Like expect it, plan for it, and then embrace it when it happens.
Embrace it. Yes.
Mhm.
It's like
Yeah.
I love like it when I fall, dude, I fall all the time. Literally all the time.
Mhm.
Gymnastics and ninja, you literally are on the floor more than you're
Yeah.
actually hitting stuff. So if you actually go on my stories, I always share failures because I want people to see, or I try to show like it took 100 times for me to get this trick or whatever, because yeah, that you can't just like everything, failure is part of everyone's journey. And I always say like embrace the suck because
Mhm.
when you do
That's it.
something new, you suck. You're not good
Yeah.
at it. And that's
Yep.
okay. And that it's uncomfortable, right? But
Yeah.
it's like once you can get through that, then it's good. But yeah,
Mhm.
so I would say like, yeah, failure, you have to get comfortable failing.
Mhm.
And if a lot of people aren't and they like to stay in that comfort zone, and especially on social media, oh my goodness, it's like,
Mhm.
let me just show you how awesome I am. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, that is not real life. Like, come on,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. Exactly. It's 100%. And it is really just that vulnerability of like, this is how life is. It's like there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, but either way, it's going to teach you something. You're going to become resilient. Like, and it's the same thing. It's like a good sailor is never a good sailor in smooth seas. It's those rough seas that teaches the sailor to be good. And it's our human experience. Like we only rise up and become enriched through those hard experiences. So
Yeah.
it's absolutely amazing. And I feel like, for anyone who's listening to this, like there's so many golden nuggets like woven throughout this conversation that it's like, thank you so much for showcasing your journey because
Yeah.
all these mindset and like habits and everything that you had implemented clearly worked to help you along your journey and continue to work so that you are resilient and strong and pursuing
Yeah.
what you desire. So definitely go back and listen to this. It's amazing. And I'm just so grateful that you have come and shared your journey and how you have accomplished everything you have in life. So
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I just hope after you listen to this is that you just know that if I can do it, you can do it. If you were at a really hard place in your life and you were like rock bottom, right? Just not a great place. Just know it's going to get better. Climb out of that place and just you can do absolutely anything you set your mind to. So I hope I inspire you today with that story. And I think that as you can see, I've been through so much and I've been in a dark place a lot. And
Mhm.
I know what that's like. And so just know there are brighter days ahead and always choose faith over fear.
I love that. Thank you so much, Angela. And for someone who wanted to
Yeah.
connect with you, follow you, where can they find you?
Yep. So I'm on all the stuff.
Mhm.
So I'm on Instagram. I'm COLO Fitness Chick. So it's Colorado Fitness Chick.
Mhm.
Because I focused at first, it was like on my fitness stuff, but now it's like mostly, I put mostly everything on there. And then
Mhm.
I also am on Facebook, which is Angela Fuller. And then I'm on TikTok, Happy Dance Ninja. So when I was on the show, Matt Eisman's like, she's the happiest girl to be out here. And a lot of my friends do call me the happy dance ninja because I do a happy dance after everything I do because I get so
Yeah.
excited. So that's my TikTok. And then I have a website, I have Linktree. I also have, if you want a Faith Over Fear shirt, it's a local mom in Highlands Ranch that makes them. And also I donate $5 of every shirt to my best friend fighting cancer.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah. So if you
Oh,
go to any of my socials, there is a link tree that links to all of it. So if you want to see all of it, I also, like I said, I'm an open book. So if you go on YouTube, I have a whole rundown of what it was like to be on the show as well. And I basically put everything out there because I just want to be real with you guys. So if you want to see my journey and where I go from here and want to watch me follow my stories, yeah. So follow me. So yeah,
awesome.
thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. And definitely follow Angela, check her out, definitely connect with her. I can't thank you again for enough for
Yeah.
being on today and just sharing everything. It's just truly inspirational and really, I know will benefit so many people who listen to this podcast. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Sure.